thank you again for speaking with me.
Absolutely.
This episode, I was like, yay!
Yes.
I was so happy for you. Like, it's terrible that it happened, but I'm like, she's not meek. She's not quiet. You're using your voice and you're angry. Oh, I loved it.
Yes, me too, girl. Yes. When I saw that script for that episode, I was like, thank you, Shaquela. Thank you. Yeah. I'm just, very excited.
This was so good. And the fact it involved baby Nikki, the daughter, again, my heart bleeds for this character. But one of the things that she did say was that why stay married if you're so unhappy? And so I wanted to know, does love in this scenario, can it conquer all? We saw him trying to work back, but it's not that easy.
No. I mean, I would say that statement, love does conquer all, but you know, how does it conquer all? You know, it doesn't always mean you come back together exactly. It can also mean you love yourself a little more, and then how do you know, you can still have a relationship with someone that you love, but you still have to set boundaries with people. You have to set some healthy boundaries. And I think that in this moment, she's learning to set boundaries for herself, and she's learning to love and honor herself, and love conquers all for her in this moment in that way.
Right now, we saw her go to Pastor Swift for counsel. Obviously, he wanted a little more than just the counsel.
Right.
Does she feel after that scenario with the grabbing of the leg and the spitting of the bill, is this the right person to confide in going forward?
I'm gonna say this. I don't know about going forward, but I'm gonna say this in this moment. Was he the right person to confide in that moment? I think that she had she was sending mixed messages a little bit, you know, conscious and unconscious somewhat, because I do think that underneath there she still wanted to make Charles jealous. And you know, somewhere she knows there's maybe, I think, a little attraction there, but she has always been drawn to him. Like, he excites her when she sees him, and you know, and she does believe in the Lord, and you know, but I think, you know, just people in the ministry, even Charles, like this excites her. To like, her relationship with Charles, I think, is really a spiritual thing too, and that they connect in spirit, and that they can share about things and discuss the Bible and what does that really mean and stuff. So I think that someone like Pastor Swift, she still has a great respect for, and you know, and she wants to learn, and she, you know, does maybe put him a little bit on a pedestal, I think. So maybe I think she does want a little advice from him, and at the same time she's trying to make Charles a little jealous. And is he the right person to confide in? Michole would say no, ma'am. But in that moment, it's a mixed bag.
Okay. Now, she always had an inkling that Charles was cheating. She didn't know that it was Mabel, and to the extent of what he was doing. Right. My thing was, do you know when that moment was for her, when she thought in her mind Charles is cheating? Because you said, I thought he was building a shed for you, but instead he was putting up the drywall. And then what's interesting is, right at that scene, right over her head, there's like a big gaping hole in the wall of their own house.
Right. Exactly. Well, I mean, I don't think that, ask me your question one more time, because I just had a thought that just left that I wanted.
It was, do you know the moment in her mind?
Oh, yes. The moment, I think, where she first started to distrust was when she saw the dirty magazines. Okay. And because she didn't notice that before, like, what was, you know, it didn't seem like there was a need for a dirty magazine before. Like, it felt like what they had was enough. And so the fact that he was looking made her feel like he wanted something outside of their marriage. And not that that had to be the case, but it really was the case, though. He was, you know, just getting interested in other things, and they weren't able to be as intimate as they were before, like, because she was very stressed out with working and all of this stuff. She was just exhausted with everything they had to do to keep a roof over their head. She was doing so much. And I think she was frustrated some with Charles because he, you know, he's working on the car business and stuff and living out his dream. And here I am working my butt off at Wendy's. And, you know, he gets to kind of take this pause and dream a little and, you know, play or whatever he's doing, but not really. I didn't feel like he was seeing me. And I'm sure he felt the same. But so they did end up with this little kind of gap between them at the time, and their needs weren't being met. And so therefore I see the magazines, I feel like something's going on. And so my intuition was right, that it felt like something was not right. But I couldn't put my finger on it. And then you kind of get off but I think this is true all the time. It's like somewhere your intuition is always telling you something. Right. You know, it's always just right there, and then you don't trust it. So then, you know, the situation with Sister Riley came up, and it's like, and that was real too, because she was all up in his face and kind of all up on him, and me questioning it. It was like that wasn't fully happening, but there was still some, you know, he was still flirty, and she was definitely all up in his face. And so, but I never would have suspected that it would be Mabel, because really, Mabel is the only friend that you have really seen me with. And I have confided in her about many things, you know, and I don't think I would have ever suspected that it would be her, and especially on this level.
Right.
Yeah.
So after that incident and confronting Mabel, we see later on that Lucille allows Nikki to go to that hair competition. So
yeah.
It seems like she's changed up a little bit. She's less tired. Can you say whether or not we will see a different side of Lucille explored? Will she be able to dream?
I hope so. I mean, it's her time. And the fact that she's gotten to this point that she got to really speak her mind and get all that stuff out and beat that guitar and you know, and she used her voice, as you said too, and she stepped into her power in that moment. So it's like a moment to go, hey, wait a minute, I matter too. And, you know, and you have to give it to yourself first before anybody else can really give it to you on the level that you feel like you really need. So she's, you know, I hope that she has the opportunity to dream, but I do think this is a new beginning right here. And I'm very, very excited about where she is right now.
So by her saying, yes, you can go to that competition, was that out of guilt, or was this out of that new leaf? I released it all.
I think it was, I don't think it was guilt. I think it was, you know, I need to try something different too. You know, and so I want to go to that party with you, and you know, and I was letting myself go some, and therefore I was able to give her permission to, you know, that I was able to let go of the reins with her. And it's funny how you don't always realize how you're affecting another person, you know, and how much by a parent honoring and taking care of themselves can help to free your child to do the same thing, you know? Yeah, but I'm glad she made that choice, and I'm really excited for Nicole that she gets to explore some new things, and I have been hard on her this season, you know? Yeah, I've been on her. It's just like, ooh. So anyway.
So when Nicole said, you know, I want to take care of you, in that moment, How was she? Did she need did she need her daughter to take care of her? Or was this, I'm going to take care of myself, so don't do that?
Can you remind me what I say back in that moment?
You don't respond yet. You don't respond.
Right. I think it feels good that she wants to do that for me, and that she can acknowledge her mom, because I haven't been acknowledged by everybody. I don't feel like I'm being fully acknowledged by Charles and even my sons at this point, because they're kind of reflecting a lot of the things that Charles is doing, you know, and especially Terry anyway. And so, but I still want her to have her young life too, and not feel like she has to do everything to take care of mom. But it feels good to have her expressed, to be acknowledged in that moment.
Right. What prevented Lucille from not attacking Mabel? Either you attacked her verbally, but not physically. You had that cast iron in your hand, and I was afraid.
Right. You know, I can't really say, because that was just a moment to moment thing. It was like, should I bash her in her face right now? Or should I just make her think I'm gonna bash her in her face? And I wanted to instill fear in her. And I think it was a stronger choice to threaten to do it rather than do it in that moment, because I wanted her to leave the neighborhood. I wanted her to be afraid of me freaking forever.
You scared me, so I believed it 1,000%. So, where do you see not just the relationship with Charles, but as a family? At the very end, there's a voiceover that states, you know, while we were busy bickering and not taking care of our own home, that's when the enemies were allowed to come in. And so we see Mabel make that crack and seep her way into that. Can that crack, what does it look like now?
I mean, you have to keep watching and find out. But one thing I'll say is the love in the Flenory family goes really deep. And at the end of the day, they are a family that they're gonna show up for their kids, and you know, and what that means for the two of them. I mean, they still have to continue to co-parent regardless. They will forever be a part of one another's lives. So how do you navigate that whole thing? And you just have to keep watching for that.
So in the previous episode, Meech does know about the affair. In fact, he responded, well, I'm surprised it took that long. Do you think that if Lucille did know that Meech knew, would it have been more painful coming from him as opposed to finding out on her own with that matchbox and Mabel?
I don't know. That's like you know, it's like on one hand, like you think you want to know something, and if somebody knows and they're not telling you, but then when you find out something, it's still always better to find out directly from that person, you know, than on the outside. But I do think she feels a little betrayed, because she would want her sons to want to protect her. You know what I mean? To, you know, and not be like, oh, dad, go get it, you know, with some other woman or whatever. You still want to feel like, because that still says something about how her sons are growing up and what their view of women is too, you know. And I think that hurts.
Right.
As much as she loves her boys, but that hurts, you know.
Do you feel, if looking back at the situation, that it's better that she knew who the person was, that it was Mabel that was doing the cheating, as opposed to never knowing who that woman was? Is it important for her growth, would you say?
I think it's definitely better for her to know that it was Mabel, because first of all, I felt like Mabel was like my closest friend.
Right.
And so it's different, like, I think, to find out that, you know, your man is cheating on you, and it's just some random person, before it to be your friend. Because in some ways, like, you know, you can think of it like this. It's like sometimes men can come and go in your life, but your friends remain the same mostly, and that's your core. Like you always have your friends that you can confide in when something is going wrong, or if you break up, or if you whatever. Your friends are still there for you, you know, and that she just was not who she said she was, and she was just foul all along. Like, and I mean, oh, she was just dirty, that she could come into my, and I don't even know all the details of what she was really doing, but coming into my house, you know, and trying to be up on him, and then I'm right upstairs. That is just so shady. And so I'm definitely glad that she found out, because you definitely need to know who your real friends are.
Right. And lastly, what does happiness look like for Lucille?
I think right now, happiness looks like loving herself and filling up on herself the way she feels like she would want everybody else to fill her up. And when you start with you, then everything else around you changes. And so she just needs to go in loving herself more deeply, and I think that's where the happiness is.
Thank you again so much for speaking to me. I'm rooting for this character.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you, love.
Thank you.
Thank you. Girl power.